Welcome back to CryptosRus. I'm George. We're all George. So, welcome to another Market Open stream. Today is the day, the big day. The FOMC meeting press conference and the future rate hike will be announced today. So, where is Bitcoin heading to next? Let's talk about that, and let's talk about what else is going on in the world today. So, let's get started. And by the way, the bell just rung. Best bell in the industry. Welcome, guys. Take a look. Bitcoin is flat. It's steady. It's looking like it wants to move 28,400, right? And I'll talk about where I think it will be heading next. But today, the U.S. market is going to be flat because, well, until this guy speaks, and you guys know I've been talking a lot about Fed Chair Powell. He is going to have a press conference at 1:30 approximately, but around 1 p.m., and I'm talking about Central Time, the next rate hike will be announced. So we will have that data ahead, but more importantly, people want to know what he's thinking. Despite inflation going down, which is great, labor market is still hot, which is not so great in Powell's eyes. But because of all the bank fears right now, will that affect his decision? And how much so? Right now, it's predicted only 12% chance he will not raise the Fed fund rate, and 88% chance he will. So this hope that maybe he just stops altogether may be dissipating, but I'm still clinging on that hope that maybe that's a possibility. If he announces zero hike this time around, I think the market will just absolutely explode. But even if he doesn't, even if he does a 25 basis point hike, I think the market will still react well because previously it was 50 basis points. So either way, I think it's a win-win, but it depends on how you look at it also. And I'll explain that, what I mean by that. First of all, if you look at all the banks, what they're predicting, you got JP Morgan, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, Citi, Barclays, Deutsche Bank, and Investing.com. I don't know why Investing.com is thrown in there. But they're all predicting 25 basis points. But you do have Goldman Sachs and Wells Fargo saying zero. And it's funny, Credit Suisse also is making predictions, even though they should not be making predictions at this point. So that's kind of how people feel right now, or banks feel about what Fed Chair Powell is going to do. Elon, of course, said that he thinks that Powell should just cut the rates by 50 basis points. That's not going to happen. But, you know, maybe Elon knows something that we don't. So this is the big thing that is coming up today, right? But overall, I'd like to remind you guys, even though we're getting rate cut, or we may get rate cut, or we don't, or we get a smaller raise, whatever the circumstance, right? I like to remind you guys, this is actually what's happening, okay? Money printing and buying power decreasing. Ultimately, this is happening. So short term, yeah, we may get a rally. Short term, we may get some enthusiasm, right? You get some money coming back in. Yeah, it's all great. But long term, know this. Monetary policy of the Fed and the U.S. government and all governments around the world is robbing you of your wealth. Buying power has been decreasing. It is basically at 0%. From 1913 till now, I know it's a long time, but basically what you could have purchased in 1913 would be 1,000 times bigger than what you could purchase today. And it just slowly drains and drains and drains and drains and drains. This is why inflation is a silent tax. And if you don't pay attention to it, this is what happens. And this happens because Everyone just keeps printing more money. The circulation of money keeps rising because there's an infinite money printer that can be turned on at any given time, right? But when you compare this to Bitcoin's monetary policy, well, it's completely opposite, okay? Look at where we are now. When Bitcoin was first released, the Genesis block, miners were making about 50 Bitcoins per block. Awesome. Then 2012 was cut to 25. 2016 was cut to 12.5. Currently, right now, a miner only gets about 6.25 Bitcoins per block. After 2024, the next halving, 3.1. Then you go to 1.5, and that's 2028. And then 2032, you're getting less than 1 Bitcoin per block. And then you keep going down the road, and then you realize, well, Bitcoin is going to become a lot more scarce in the future. The number that we have now, right, pretty much, I don't want to say that's all that there will ever be, but the future amount that's being released is very, very tiny, and it's only going to get tinier, tinier. This is the monetary policy of Bitcoin, to become more scarce, not to be more plentiful like fiat, like the USD and like the euro, like everything else that keeps inflating because there's more and more and more and more of it. Bitcoin is going the opposite direction. This is why Bitcoin, I believe, is the best way to hedge against inflation, and it will become the greatest store of value that we have. I honestly believe that is the case. There's nothing else out there that's like Bitcoin. Nothing. Anyways, so I want to share that right off the bat. What else is there? Well, of course, a lot of Bitcoin enthusiasm right now. On-chain metrics are extremely healthy, obviously, right? You still have someone like Cathie Wood, who believes they came out with this report in terms of how high they feel Bitcoin can reach by 2030, and maximum they predicted 1.5 million, and then I think the lowest was, I forgot what the lowest was, like 200,000, and mid was like 600,000. So it's like between 200,000 and 1.5 million. This is 2030. Okay, this is not like 2300. She's not talking about like 300 years in the future. She's talking about 7 years, Bitcoin possibly getting up to $1.5 million. I mean, just think about that, okay? This is a short clip. It's about 2 minutes, so let me play this. I think this is pretty interesting. Let me get this ready. Let me play this.
We know you're a long-term investor with long-term calls, but what on earth gets us to that bull case of almost $1.5 million per Bitcoin if a bank crisis doesn't?
One of the things that happens in a crisis is liquidity dries up, so that tends to hurt assets. And the fact that Bitcoin moved in a very different way from the equity markets in particular was quite instructive. You'll find the building blocks of those price targets in our Big Ideas 2023. So ARC Big Ideas 2023, and they are, for the base case, I would suggest quite conservative. We've dialed some of them down since last year. I know that corporate treasuries pulled away from Bitcoin because the regulators were pulling them away from Bitcoin on their balance sheet. So we've pulled back there. But we do believe that the behavior of the price through this crisis is going to attract more institutions, for example. We've done a report targeting institutional investors, and the allocation that they should make if they care about this new asset class diversifying their portfolios. And I believe it's somewhere between 2.5% and 6.5%. So not crazy. These are the sorts of allocations they would have made to emerging new categories of assets like real estate in the 70s, emerging markets and small cap in the 80s and 90s.
There you have it. Basically, that prediction is based on institutions just diversifying just a little bit of their balance sheet, 2 to 6%. We're not talking about like expecting institutions to put 50% or 100% in Bitcoin like MicroStrategy. She's talking about just the big boys putting about 2% up to 6% into Bitcoin. And that will make Bitcoin rise to $1.5 million by 2030. Think about that. There's a lot of money out there, and there's a lot of money that these big boys hold on to. Just a sliver, a tiny sliver of that into Bitcoin can drive it up to insane levels. Basically, that's what she's saying. I agree, especially after I just got done talking about the monetary policy of the Fed versus the monetary policy of Bitcoin, right? It makes a whole lot of sense. I saw this also. Hong Kong is allocating $50 million to expedite Bitcoin and crypto hub development. Does this mean China is going all in on crypto now? Because if Hong Kong is doing this, and we know Hong Kong recently had made several headline news, one about being more coming out with rules and regulations for crypto exchanges because they are ready to completely open up. So that's very bullish. Also, there's other bullish things like this about making Hong Kong into a crypto hub development. What's this about? Is China getting ready to go all in on Bitcoin as well? You know, right now, who are the biggest buyers of gold? Countries. Imagine one day when the biggest buyer of Bitcoin are also countries, right? That would be insane. Imagine if China and US and Russia and everyone else, they're stocking up on Bitcoin and they're fighting over what's left, right? It would be absolutely insane, especially on an asset that's very limited and capped by supply, and most of it's already out. But when they come in, I mean, they're buying by the trillions. They're not buying by billions. They're buying by trillions. I mean, that could happen, right? What better asset or currency to become the world's reserve currency than Bitcoin, if you think about it? It's the one currency that's not controlled by any country, right? So there's not going to be any jealousy. So you're not going to have like China saying, well, I don't want the USD to be the reserve currency because it's not ours. We can't control it, and we don't want to make US more powerful, right? But think about it. If Bitcoin becomes that reserve currency, no one can feel really any jealousy towards any other country or any other animosity towards anyone else, right? Because it's neutral. It's a global currency, not controlled by anyone. It's really amazing. You can't replicate Bitcoin. You just can't. This day and age, it's impossible. Even if anyone tried, you just can't do it. Anyways, and then you know what? From a technical standpoint, you have this triple bottom that's looking pretty tasty, meaning that Bitcoin is ready to go up, just kind of like that triple top in reverse, right? It's one of those technical signals or indicator. I don't know what this is called, signal or indicator. I'll just say signal. That's pretty bullish. Okay, when you have a triple top, pretty bearish. Right now you have a triple bottom. That's pretty bullish. And of course you have other metrics like this one that's actually SOPR, which is measuring how many people are in a profit or loss. And right now it's starting to flip into green. And again, these kind of metrics are long term, even though I've shown so many, but these events don't happen very often. You could see Bitcoin's history only happened, 5 times prior? And every time that happened, Bitcoin went up on a tremendous run, every single time. So this is one that you don't want to ignore. And we are about to just flip into the green. So think about that. We're at the cusp of flipping the green and heading much higher. Outstanding. Also, if you look at the 200 weekly moving average, this is like kind of like a solid support for Bitcoin. And yes, we were below. Bitcoin was below for a very long time. But now we're back above, ready to rock again, kind of like that SOPR chart I just showed you guys. And plus, of course, the holders just keep on increasing. Number of non-zero addresses, all-time high. It just seems like it's going up forever. 45 million addresses holding a little bit of goodness. Bitcoin. So, fantastic stuff. Fantastic stuff. Outside of Bitcoin, just real quick, yesterday I already talked about why XRP went up big. Cardano also went up pretty big. And, you know, I was looking at it, in case you guys are wondering. It does seem like they completed some new upgrade that makes them a little bit more efficient. That's the only thing I could find. This dynamic P2P, which allows the nodes to automatically connect to and from other nodes. I guess it makes it just more efficient. That's the only thing I found. And otherwise, Cardano has just been very stagnant also. So there's that. Also, a little news about Polygon. You have a gaming giant, Nexon, that will be using Polygon for their new MapleStory Universe game. So Polygon is just on an absolute tear recently. And they're about to release their ZK EVM, which is a game changer. Even Immutable X decided to jump in on that. So good stuff for Polygon. All right, that is pretty much it. Bitcoin is ready to rock. The entire industry is ready to rock. And today, the market is flat until this guy speaks. All right, let's do some Q&A. And by the way, here we go. Mortgage demand increases again, but interest rates are rising. Yeah, interest rates near 7%, but people are still looking for homes, right? Some people have asked me, do you think real estate's going to go down? And this pretty much answers that. No, because supply is still very limited. There's still a lot of people looking for homes. Even if mortgage demand softens, and it has, I don't think home prices are going to crash to pre-2020 levels. I just don't see it. Anyways, all right, let's do some Q&A. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. A lot of people in here today. A lot of people have been tuning in recently, obviously, because it's exciting again. A lot of also fear about banks overall, right? But this is definitely an exciting time to be in Bitcoin and crypto. All right, let's see here. Scrolling. Interactive. Appreciate that. Love Kathy Wood. She's a visionary. Scrolling. Did you see the White House report on crypto yesterday? Bad. It doesn't matter what the White House says about crypto. They're clueless, so you shouldn't be paying attention to that either. My only concern is that he will keep raising rates by 25 basis points and keep funding the banks to market with dump hard. No, it won't. I 100% agree with that. Disagree with that. It's pretty much locked in as 25 basis points. And even if it is 25 basis points, I don't think the markets go dump hard. And even if it's zero, right? I don't think that he's going to stop. I honestly think he may take a break, do zero, let things calm down, and continue forward. He still wants to reach that 5%. I don't think that's changed, unless we see a lot more bank failures. And they're trying very hard to prevent that from happening. Yeah, that's just my opinion. Am I streaming the conference? Yes, I always do, for sure. When Big Mac's price and sats? Soon. I don't know who would actually buy a Big Mac with Bitcoin at this point. But yeah, in the future, yeah. Did I see the new Dodge Demon? Yes, I did. You know, if I was an old Demon holder, I'd be pissed off because Dodge said they weren't going to release anymore, so it drops the value of the old ones immediately. The new ones looks great, except, you know, you have to prepare to track and you have to do a whole bunch of stuff and use E85 to be able to get all that power. And, you know, people are saying, well, it's faster than Tesla. Well, in a very, very limited capacity. But it will be a collector's car if they don't release any more in the future. It may be done, you know, because everyone's moving to EVs and they're already working on, Dodge is working on the next EV muscle car, the Charger, Daytona. So it'll probably be a good car to keep because this will be the end. There will be no more combustible engine cars that these manufacturers will be releasing in the future. So if you could get your hands on one, I bet it'll sell for big money in the future, except the dealerships are going to mark it up like crazy. Why does Taco Bell always get rid of the nacho fries? My thinking is just a marketing ploy. Just like why does McDonald's always gets rid of the McRib? They could keep the McRib on the menu all day long, every day, but why don't they? You know, it's just a marketing gimmick. The Shaolin. What world are we entering when the Fed stops all business activity by increasing interest rates, but then bails out businesses they choose, even forward ones, at times get tough? I mean, that's just, they pick and choose their battles. I mean, what the Fed is doing is counterintuitive to lowering inflation. I mean, they just had to print $300 billion, I believe, to bail out 4 banks. Where did that money come from? From nowhere. It was just created. They have an infinite, you know, balance sheet that they can, or not balancing, infinite money printer to pull money from. So you think about it. Yeah, they're printing more money to save the banks to prevent a bigger disaster. So, yes, that's their priority, but also their second priority is decreasing inflation, and that certainly doesn't help, right? But of course, Powell and others are not going to say that. They can't publicly say that, oh, inflation is due to our irresponsible money printing. No, they're going to blame it on other conditions. They go blame it on, oh, it's a supply chain issue. Oh, because it's the war. Or, oh, it's because, I don't know, the job market is too hot. You know, they're diverting. He knows what's going on, but he can't say it. He can't say, well, because we are printing too much money right now. I mean, he can't directly say that. But yeah, he knows what's going on. But you know, you got to pick and choose your battles. If you are in this position and the banks are failing, you can't just say, okay, let them fail, I'm not going to help them. He can't do that. Alan, Mandarin 2 weeks in, I'm retaining all that I study. Good for you. Why are you studying Mandarin in the first place? Douglas, how long will it take for inflation to feel hit from the recent bank bailouts? You know, inflation is slow and it creeps in, and you just don't realize it until it's too high. You know, for example, you may be buying a gallon of milk for $1, and then, you know, a year later it's $1.25. A year later it's $1.75. 5 years later, now it's $2.50. You know, it slowly creeps up on you, and then you don't realize until one day you go shopping. You're like, why is my bill $200? And then you look at it and everything is sky high. That's how inflation is. It's like slowly robbing you. So that's why the only good thing about inflation is if you have assets, it helps your assets. Your assets go up in value due to inflation. But you have to hold on assets that outperform inflation. Otherwise, you're just breaking even. Or if you're holding on assets that doesn't even gain and appreciate, that means you're losing your buying power just the same as if you were holding fiat cash. That's why holding on gold in the last 10 years has been such a bad idea, because you actually lost out against inflation. This whole notion of stocking up on gold, you know what gold is good for? If you need to pull out everything out of the stock market and you need to park your money into like a stable coin, that's what gold is. Gold is like a stable coin. But if you're trying to make money and you're trying to outperform inflation, gold is not going to help you do that. Bitcoin will. Nothing will do it better than Bitcoin. Brendan, I would go... You know, the last generation of Diablo, the last few years, I mean, they're still sexy as hell. The Diablo has a timeless look. The new Countach, it looks good, but just way too pricey. I don't know why Lamborghini had to do that. It's like $1 million. No one's gonna get it. Murcielago is good, but I don't like that transmission in there unless you get a manual. Coinbase is down slightly today. Tesla not moving. Tesla has been coming up a lot recently. Let's put this chart up right here. What are you doing in preparation for Fed? Nothing. I've loaded up more on Bitcoin this past week. You know, the only thing to do is decide how much you're going to DCA. I mean, really, that's the game plan. Thanks for the super sticker. And then Alan, I'm studying Mandarin because a game is game. I don't know what that means, but good for you. How many employees do you have for this channel, and when do we get to meet them? Why do you want to meet them? I have them locked up, and they never see sunlight, so you'll never meet them. No, I'm just kidding. I have about 3 employees. They're very hardworking. If you go to Bitcoin 2023, you'll meet one of them. I'm gonna bring several people with me. So I have a small group. I don't understand all these other channels that say I have like 10 people or 20 people or 50 people or 100 people working. I don't see how that could be efficient. I think with a small group, you could get a lot done. It's more about maximizing efficiency and knowing what you're doing, right? And I think I'm doing pretty well, all things considering. And yes, I have Do Kwon locked in my basement as well, along with my employees. Anyone buying ARB tomorrow? I don't know, Mike, why you would buy ARB. It's being airdropped for free to many, so you figure many people will be dumping it, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Well, just let things settle down. You'll find a floor price, and then if you want to get into Arbitrum, which wouldn't be a bad idea because Arbitrum is a huge L2, right? But you gotta let things settle. You don't want to do it on day one. Thoughts on AI? AI is so interesting. There's so many things being worked on right now all of a sudden. It's weird that before ChatGPT came out, we had like very little services that were dubbed like AI services, but now you got so many. You got ones that can create computer generated images. You have ones that can dub different languages. I mean, you have ones that, of course, can write, can interpret things. I mean, all of a sudden, they're all coming out at the same time. It's weird. It makes you wonder if we just, I don't know what you call it. We're in the, we flipped the switch, so to speak, and now we're entering the AI revolution. The things that people could do with AI now is crazy. You could generate realistic pictures of people doing things in places or doing poses and even videos of people that you can't even tell anymore. That's how realistic it is. It's actually kind of scary that you can computer generate people and really you can't tell if it's real or not, right? But it seems like a lot is going on right now. So for crypto, the AI projects in crypto, I think, are just too early. They're not really as involved as some of those things I've talked about right now, but they will in the future. I think storage is natural for, I guess, a natural extension for these AI projects. There's a lot of crypto projects that are, of course, in the decentralized storage play. That's an easy collaboration right there, right? Easy entrance into this AI. Of course, there's AI marketplaces. That could also be big. But I think storage will be the first thing that blows up. I don't know. We'll see. The new Accord Type R, I did not hear about that. I wish they would create something like that because the new Accord, to be honest, is it's kind of boring. It's kind of boring. So I don't know if that's real. I have to look that up. If that's real, that would be great. I don't think blockchain is defense against AI. No, I don't agree with that. Thomas, how many GPUs did you have when you were a Litecoin miner? At one point in time, I had like 125 GPUs running. It was a lot. I could have added more, but my basement couldn't handle it. My basement was like at 98 degrees, nearing 100 degrees in the dead of winter when I was blasting in negative 20 degree coldness from the outside. I had those big fans, the ones that you use to cool your to dry your basements when it floods. I had that pipe to my window, and I was pumping in negative 20 degree air inside my basement, and it was still like 100 degrees. That's how hot it was. So when you run those GPUs 24/7 at 100% capacity, they generate so much heat. It's unbelievable hot. So Young Lord says DeFi will be bigger than banks. Platform like Aave, Polygon is more trustworthy than banks now. I mean, I don't disagree with that. DeFi is definitely going to be huge in the future as more people turn away from centralized financial companies, financial apps, banks, anything that's centralized that could be controlled. People will turn away from them. Daniel, I had to upgrade my panel. I actually put in another panel, but it's still all worked. I think I had 200 amp service. It was still running, but I would feel some of these conduits, and they would be like really hot. It got me actually worried. The conduits were like not burning hot, but they were hot. And by the way, I just realized in my thumbnail I said where Bitcoin is heading to next. I didn't even address that. But I do think after Bitcoin breaks through this 28.8, the next stop is going to be about 31.6. So we'll see what Powell says this afternoon. It'll be at 1:30. I will be streaming it. But I think the market could explode afterwards, especially for Bitcoin. And if it does, we break through this, boom, we're back to $30,000. We'll probably drop down from there if we do hit it and maybe come back down to like 30, but we could see a sunrise like that really quick. So I'm looking forward to that. We might even do that before the FOMC meeting. Look at Bitcoin. It's just like slowly trending upwards. It really wants to pop right now. Are you reading anything to learn more about BTC? I don't know. Not like how to program or code or anything. I think I know enough about Bitcoin to understand what it's about, what it represents, why I need more of it, and learning about the financial industry overall has helped me understand Bitcoin more. So, yes and no. Did you hear about Swiss citizens having to pay $13,500 for the Credit Suisse bailout? No, and I don't mean to laugh at that. That really sucks. See, there are consequences for everything. Sometimes it's very apparent, sometimes it's not. Inflation, unfortunately, is not very apparent until it's too late. That's just how it is. Until you realize everything is so expensive, right? Yeah, so you got to hedge against that. Young Lord, I appreciate that, and I already said that. Yeah, I do agree with you. I do agree with you. Oh, look at that. DXY is coming down. DXY is at 103 right now. DXY coming down is also very positive. So that's good too. Mark, Kava is okay. They're like a L1 built with Cosmos SDK, and they're all about DeFi. I say they're one of the better ones out there. So they have their own whole DeFi ecosystem. They have their lending program or project, and they have their staking project, and they're L1 now, and there's other stuff they're working on for liquidity and bridges, and they're connected into the Cosmos ecosystem. So I'd say not bad. FOMC meeting is at 1:30 Central Standard Time. Stop looking at DXY. You're going to make it pump. I do want it to pump. I want it to pump right now. HUD merger with BTC Corp. I actually didn't know about that. So what's BTC Corp? I don't even know what corp that is. I'll look it up afterwards. Nick Gordon, are you not attempting to do half weekly DCA ahead of Powell? No. And Nick, I don't know if you're asking because you think that DCA is actually my portfolio. No, that's just a sample portfolio. I mean, I've been DCAing myself personally way ahead of that press conference. I've been doing it forever, but I loaded up more on Bitcoin even earlier this week. So I've been personally doing it, but that DCA portfolio, that DCA portfolio I've been showing you guys, that I will add more to tonight. And it'll be glorious because it should be pretty close getting back to even. And that's the power of DCA. All right, guys, that's it. Let's conclude. I will see you guys again in a few hours at 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. So make sure you tune in. We'll have a good old time watching the reporters ask Powell some difficult questions. But right now, Bitcoin is itching to climb up. It's predicted that Powell's going to raise the rates by 25 basis points. We'll see if that's true. But keep in mind, no matter what, inflation is no good. Quantitative easing or tightening or just monetary policy overall. This is what it's leading to. More money being printed and your buying power decreasing to basically zero. And that's why Bitcoin is better, because it doesn't inflate. It's actually getting deflated and it is capped. And you don't want to be the last person to get in. All right, smash it a like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in a couple hours. Take care. Bye-bye.